This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Is it possible that you and I are suffering from cultural bulimia or cultural binging? This is Wretched Radio. Art Azurdia from the Shepherd's Conference 2018. He brought it. I'm telling you. He heated up the place. Convicting preaching. When we look at the flow of history, Art pointed out, prior to the cross, you see everything like a funnel. It's all funneling into one location, a small area in a city called Jerusalem, on a hill where a cross was planted and a man was hung who died for the sins of the world. This is the pinnacle of human history, and it is all pointing, moving toward that direction. When it was finished, when the work was done, we see it go just the opposite. So I don't know if this is centripetal, but all of a sudden it's like now everything is accomplished right here in this one pinpointed location. Now, boom, and it sends it all back out again to the world. The whole world should have been looking at the cross. Now the cross people are going to go out to the world and bring the message of the gospel. Art Azurdia encouraging us to remember that. We're not here to binge on the world. We should not be cultural gluttonous. We shouldn't be such lovers of the world that our days are consumed. Now, again, like I've got a cell phone. I got a cup of coffee in front of me. I'm wearing a watch on my wrist. That doesn't make you worldly, but if all I do is live for this little box, this little stimulant, or this bauble on my wrist, then I've got cultural gluttony. On the other hand, you got yourself some cultural anorexia. We just don't really talk to the pagans very much. Another potential ditch that we can fall into as Christians, not with the outside world so much, but internally with our own children.
Some of the Christians in your congregation may actually believe that the goal of Christian parenting is to do everything in their power to keep their children out of the world. I could not disagree more. The burden of Christian parents must always be to prepare their children to engage the world with a mind shaped by the Scriptures, a heart aflame with love for Jesus Christ, a courage endowed by the Spirit of God, and a holy compassion that recognizes the people of this world not as the enemy, but the victims of the enemy.
Right.
And yet I submit to you, my dear brothers, it is contempt for the unbeliever that will fill the hearts of our children if by the time they get to be 14 or 15, they have no meaningful relationship with those Jesus refers to as harassed and helpless sheep without a shepherd.
Let me gently encourage you to consider how you talk about the pagans in your home. I don't have a statistic for this. I truly don't. And this I'm not looking to stir up the hornet's nest again, but a few days ago, I made a comment. It was singular. I was talking about Hispanic people, the people that I tend to see on the streets, the people that I tend to see doing the hard labor, the people that I tend to see doing the cleanup work, the jobs in the sun that others aren't interested in doing, laboring hard. And it has changed my attitude toward those people. Now, please note, it did not change my attitude toward the immigration policy of our country. In fact, when we had this conversation, I talked about, yes, build a wall. I agree. And with everybody who very thoughtfully sent me an email on this, I agree with you. We do need laws. We do need to determine who comes into this country and who does not come into this country. That is right, but that was not my point. My point was singular. My attitude toward anybody, I don't care who they are. This is what I think is something that has poisoned all of us, myself included. The current cultural climate is one of debate. It is one of clashing, one-upping, gotcha journalism. And so when we watch and listen to a lot of talk radio, what do you hear? you hear an attitude of those people are terrible. They are bad for our country. They are wrecking things. Now, I'm not saying that they're not. That's not what I'm saying. But we pick up that tone. And so when you and I perhaps talk about the issue of immigration, our kids hear that. What do they hear? These Hispanic people, they're just wrecking the place. What does that say to the kids? Now, you can have that sentiment if you think it has some sort of merit or basis. I'm just talking about how we express ourselves regarding human beings that need the gospel. They need to be saved. Now, I suspect somebody's going to send me an email saying, well, now you're all squishy. You're talking like a liberal. I'm not. I would like to think that I'm encouraging us to simply talk like Christians. Have the right policies. That's fine. I think that this applies. I'm sorry. I know that somebody's going to think that I've just become some sort of lib bomb. I'm not. When we talked about the gay issue historically, the transgender issue currently, if a transgender person were listening to you talk about their demographic, would they hear love? Just asking that singular question. How do we view the world? How do we view the lost? And how we talk about them with our children around is going to, in their mind, fix how we deal with these pagans. Are they the problem? They're causing all kinds of grief. They're making this country go right down the tubes. Whatever it is. Or do we see them as people who need the gospel? Because that is why we are here.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The eternal Word has come into the world, and in turn, the call to follow him is a clarion call to a worldly Christianity. As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. Whether by way of cultural gluttony or cultural anorexia, you abdicate your identity as a Christian if you have no meaningful engagement with this world for the sake of Jesus Christ and the gospel.
Please note, it is just as easy to abdicate that responsibility in a third world country as it is in a first world country. Just as easy. I think for different reasons, we can get distracted with amusements, with entertainment, with baubles, all the things that are shiny, interesting, and fun. In the third world country, they're just too busy trying to find some water to drink that day, or to find some food or some labor, and we can be distracted from our assignment. Does this mean we give up work, that we give up our home? No. It means that we understand our primary calling here as Christians is to engage the culture, not so that we can have a better nation from which to go to hell from for the masses, but so that we can win people by proclaiming the gospel to them.
My brothers, the Bible is not a book of virtues. Don't preach it that way. Nor does the Bible even come close to resembling a textbook of systematic theology. Don't preach it that way. It is not, the Bible, a compilation of 66 unrelated books sewn together in a single volume simply because they bear the quality of divine inspiration. The Bible is a book that tells one overarching story centering on one primary person, which to my mind is the greatest objective evidence for its divine inspiration.
Amen to that.
And it is set forth here explicitly as the efficient instrument of sanctification for engagement with the world. That success in this ministry of being sent would not hang on their powers of creativity, their skills at contextualization, their abilities to plan and execute a program pleasing to the palate of an unbeliever, the strength of their grip on the truth, or maybe better, the strength of the truth's grip on them would determine their effectiveness as they seek to embrace Jesus' call to a meaningful worldliness.
Would invite you to consider the same thing that I began pondering after hearing this sizzler from Art Azurdia at the Shepherds Conference. Do I need to make some adjustments? Do I need to move some things around here? Am I possibly not spending time wisely and well? How much time am I spending on the internet? How much time am I spending doing this, doing that, versus how much time am I spending being on mission?
You must not disengage. You must not withdraw. You must not flee the culture. Your chief shepherd is the one who has sent you into it, not to serve the culture by enabling it to meet its own ends, but to infiltrate the gospel in a holy and subversive way with the gospel. My dear brothers, the law of redemptive physics has changed. This is the huddle. The game is played out there. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Sanctification for mission is the achievement of the crucifixion.
Until tomorrow, go serve your King.
Don't forget, if you would like to hear the entire daily broadcast, simply visit wretched.org, go to iTunes, figure out your favorite Android listening platform, and you can listen to the entire program every single day, downloaded to your listening device for free. Well, thanks to our monthly supporters called the Gospel Partners. If you'd like to partner with us, we'd be very, very grateful. Simply visit wretched.org.